It started on a Tuesday, quiet, gray, nothing to declare. I came in around 3, like I always did when I wasn't working. The coffee shop was mostly empty. Half the tables unbussed. The air thick with burnt espresso and old music that didn't seem to know what decade it belonged to. She was behind the counter again. Hair tied up, glasses low on her nose, sleeves rolled just enough to show the soft bend of her elbow. She moved differently than the others. Slower, like the world didn't get to rush her anymore. I was halfway to the counter when she looked up. "Decaf iced Americano, no sweetener?" she asked, already reaching for the cup. I blinked. Yeah. "You're consistent," she said, smiling, but only with one side of her mouth. "It's kind of charming." I looked down, pretended to read the notice board, even though I'd seen the same flyer for lost car keys taped there for 2 weeks. We didn't talk much that day. She handed me my drink, fingers brushing mine just slightly. I took the seat by the window like usual, the one with the crooked chair that squeaked if you leaned too far back. From that spot, I could see her in glimpses, refilling syrup bottles, fixing her bun in the reflection of the pastry case, laughing once with a coworker, but not loudly. I opened a blank note on my phone, typed, "Why do people stop calling you by your name when you grow up?" and then deleted it. It went like that for a while. She'd remember small things, ask how my presentation went, mention that the playlist had changed. Once, when I came in soaked from the rain, she offered me a towel. Not in a mothering way, just casual, soft. I found myself watching her hands a lot. The way she unwrapped straws with one motion, how she tapped her ring finger against the register when she was thinking. No ring on it. She never asked what I did. I liked that. Most people open with it like your job is your whole damn personality. One afternoon, I stayed longer than usual. Pretended to be finishing a reading list, but really just staring out the window, chewing the inside of my cheek. The coffee had gone cold an hour ago. She walked by to wipe down the table next to mine. "You okay?" she asked, not looking directly at me. I hesitated. "Yeah, just, thinking." She smiled at that, like she understood exactly which kind of thinking I meant. Then she said it, quiet, almost like she didn't mean to. "You make me forget how old I am." And I couldn't stop smiling. I watched her walk away, her back to me, apron string tied off slightly crooked. She didn't turn around, just disappeared into the back room like she hadn't just completely rewired my brain. That night, I left my coffee cup on the windowsill. I never did that. Felt like maybe she'd see it and remember I'd been there. At 1:12 a.m., I got a text. No name, just a number. "You left your notebook." But I hadn't. I'd left it on purpose, and I hadn't written a single thing in it. I went back the next day. Of course I did. Told myself it was to get the notebook, but I hadn't even bothered to write my name inside. She was leaning over the counter when I walked in, reading something, maybe a recipe card, maybe something more personal. She looked up like she'd been expecting me. "You're not very good at forgetting things," she said, holding the notebook out like a peace offering. "I'm worse at leaving them." She smiled, then nodded toward the back. "Slow day. Want some tea? I have this weird fig and cinnamon blend that tastes like someone's childhood memory." I followed her through the swinging door, into a narrow break room that smelled like old sugar and dish soap. She handed me a chipped mug. No milk, just warm and earthy. We didn't talk at first, just sat. There was a clock on the wall, ticking like it wanted to remind us how little sense this made. "You always come alone," she said eventually. "Do you live nearby?" "Not far. Small apartment. It's fine." She nodded slowly, then looked down at her tea. "I moved here after my divorce. Thought a smaller town might feel less lonely. Doesn't really work like that." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just sipped the tea, felt the warmth settle in my chest like a secret. "How long ago?" I asked quietly. 3 years. Then, after a pause, "He's remarried," which honestly is great. "She's kind." She said it with no bitterness, just acceptance. The kind that makes your throat tighten because you know it took years to earn. I nodded, tracing a scratch on the table with my thumb. I've never really done the whole relationship thing, I said. Not properly. Just small things. Half things. You're still young, she said softly. I don't think it's an age thing, I replied, before I could stop myself. Some people just don't get picked. She looked at me for a long time, not pitying, just still, like she was trying to decide if I meant it, or if I even knew I did. I would have picked you, she said, if we'd met somewhere else. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, just careful. The air smelled like cinnamon and old decisions. Somewhere behind the wall, a blender started and stopped. We sat with that hum between us, the kind that doesn't ask for words. When I stood to leave, I brushed past her in the narrow doorway. Just a touch, barely anything. But her hand lifted slightly, like it wanted to find mine and didn't. Instead, she reached for a container on the counter behind me and smiled like nothing had happened. Come early next time, she said. Before the rush. I nodded but didn't move. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me and didn't look away. She changed the playlist. I noticed it the moment I stepped in. No more soft jazz, no indie folk with breathy vocals. Just silence mostly. A low hum of machines. Distant voices. She was at the back counter organizing cups by size. Didn't look up when I came in. Didn't say my name. I ordered from the younger barista. Some guy named Ben, probably in school. He gave me the wrong lid. I didn't fix it. I sat at the window like always, but the chair didn't squeak this time. Someone must have fixed it, or replaced it. Felt wrong. 10 minutes passed, then 20. She came over, wiping her hands on a towel that already looked clean. You're quiet today, she said, setting a fresh tea on the table. Not my coffee, her tea. Didn't think you'd want me hanging around, I said, half smiling. Figured I'd try being mysterious. She laughed, quick, short, like it escaped. Not sure you're the mysterious type. I can try. She looked at me then, really looked, and I felt it again, how she saw me in ways I wasn't used to being seen. It was disarming, steadying, both. You left early yesterday, I said. She folded the towel, unfolded it. My son stopped by. That made something shift. Not in a jealous way, just something. I didn't even know she had a son. How old is he? 24. Then she met my eyes. Your age, probably. There it was. The line. And she'd drawn it without moving. Without meaning to. I looked down at the tea, unsure what to say. The mug was warmer than my hands. I hadn't realized they were cold. She sat across from me. No apron now. Just a faded gray sweater. He asked if I was seeing anyone, she said, tone light, trying to make it funny. Can you imagine? I nodded slowly. Did you say yes? She didn't answer right away. Just smoothed a wrinkle on the tablecloth like it might mean something. I said no, she said, quietly, because I'm not, right? I swallowed. Depends who you ask. The air felt too full, like the room had shrunk. She leaned back, arms crossed, but not defensive, just self-protective. I don't want to be someone's midlife detour, she said. I've already lived through someone outgrowing me once. I opened my mouth, closed it, because what was I supposed to say? That I wasn't playing? That I'd never had something that felt this real before? Instead, I said, that's not what this is. And she gave me a look like she wanted to believe that. Behind us, the door chimed. Ben walked in from his break, loud and clumsy, talking to someone on his phone. The spell broke. Just like that. We stood at the same time. Our arms brushed. She looked at me. Eyes tired, soft, almost brave. I leaned in. Not all the way. Just enough. She didn't move. But she didn't close the distance either. It was a Sunday. Late afternoon. The kind of sun that looks warm but isn't. She was locking up early. Staff meeting, she said, though there was no staff in sight. I offered to walk her to her car. And she didn't say yes, just waited for me to fall into step beside her. We didn't talk for the first few blocks. Just the sound of her keys jangling softly in her coat pocket. My hand brushed hers once. She didn't pull away, but she didn't take it either. Outside the bookstore, she paused, looking at the window display. Used to read everything I could get my hands on, she said. Then life started, getting in the way. I watched her reflection more than her face. Her mouth especially. The way it moved when she talked, carefully, like every word had to pass through 3 layers of doubt. Do you miss it? I asked. She shrugged. I miss who I was when I did. That hit harder than I expected. We sat on the bench nearby. Metal slats cold through my jacket. She shifted her weight, pulled her sleeves over her hands, looked everywhere but at me. I saw you with that girl last week, she said after a while. The one with the red scarf. Took me a second. Oh, Nora. She's in my program. We were working on, wait, were you? She let out a small laugh. No, don't flatter yourself. But she didn't smile after, just stared ahead at nothing. I leaned forward, elbows on knees. You could have just asked. It's not my place. That doesn't mean you didn't care. She was quiet for a beat. 2. I care more than I should, she said, almost too low to hear. My chest tightened. That kind of confession, simple, bare, was scarier than any big gesture. I don't know what you want from me, she added. I don't either, I said. But I know what I don't want. I don't want to pretend I don't feel this every time I'm near you. She looked at me then, not cautiously, not with regret, just human, tired, soft. You make me feel like I'm cheating on my life, she whispered. I didn't move, couldn't. Her hand was resting on the bench between us, fingers curled slightly inward, not touching mine, but close enough I could feel the heat off her skin. I think about you more than I should, I said. More than I want to. Another long pause. The kind that would have ended in something if the world were just a little different. She turned her head slowly, eyes finding mine. I can't stop wondering, she said, voice steady. If this is real for you, or if it's just something you'll grow out of. The question lingered between us, unanswered. And for the first time, I didn't know how to lie to make her feel better. She wasn't there Tuesday. No text, no tea, no casually folded towel on the counter. Just Ben at the register, struggling with the espresso machine. He didn't know how to spell my name. Didn't ask. Scribbled something like Jan on the cup. I waited. Long enough for the ice in my coffee to melt. Long enough to accept she wasn't running late. She'd just chosen not to be there. Wednesday passed the same way. Thursday I didn't go. By Friday it was raining. That slow, indecisive kind. The kind that turns sidewalks into mirrors. I went anyway, and this time she was there. But not in the usual way. No smile. No quiet joke. Just her tying her apron at the sink, eyes flicking up once before flicking away. I stood at the counter longer than I needed to. I'll just get a drip, I said. She nodded without looking. Told Ben to ring me up. Disappeared into the back. And that was it. She didn't come out again. That night, I started typing a message. Did I do something? Deleted it. I miss our talks. Too desperate. Are we pretending it didn't happen now? Too honest. In the end, I just stared at the blinking cursor. Let it pulse. Like a heart stuck in place. The following Monday, I saw her outside the shop. She was leaning against her car, talking to someone. A man. Tall, older, well-dressed in the way that screams settled. They weren't touching. But they weren't far apart either. She was smiling. The kind of smile you give someone who once hurt you, and maybe still could. He handed her something, a small wrapped box, maybe a book, maybe something heavier. She tucked it into her coat pocket. She didn't see me. I watched from across the street. Let the traffic pass. Let the light turn green. Then red again. I didn't cross. Later that night, I walked to the cafe. It was closed. Chairs stacked. Lights off. I pressed my forehead to the glass like an idiot, as if the room might remember us, as if the ghosts of half-finished sentences were still echoing between the counters and tables. I pulled out my phone again, typed. You said I made you forget how old you were, but now I can't stop feeling exactly how young I am. Didn't send it. Didn't save it either. Just locked the screen. Pocketed it. Walked home slower than usual. Like I didn't really want to arrive. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. She opened the door in house slippers. It was late. Not midnight late, but that soft part of the evening when everything is muted. I hadn't planned to go. Walked past her street 3 times before my feet made the decision for me. Her hair was damp, pulled back in a way that said she wasn't expecting anyone. The hallway light behind her was warm, dim. I stood on her porch, jacket damp from mist, unsure where to put my hands. She looked at me for a long time before saying anything. I thought maybe you were done. I thought maybe you wanted me to be. She stepped aside. Come in before we both catch something. The house was quiet, lived in. A ceramic bowl on the table filled with keys and receipts. A blanket half folded on the couch. The smell of boiled rice still hanging in the air. Not staged for anyone. She poured tea without asking. Set the mug in front of me with a folded napkin beneath it. The same fig and cinnamon blend. Still remembered. We sat at her kitchen table, facing each other. Not quite close. Not far either. I saw you, I said finally. With him. She didn't flinch. Just nodded. My ex-husband. He stopped by to return something. Is he? Are you? No, a pause. He's my past. I didn't invite him back in. I looked at the steam rising from my tea. Said nothing. She took a breath. Not shaky, just tired. Honest. I pulled away because I didn't know what I was to you, she said. I still don't. You think I'm too young. I think you're still becoming someone. And I don't want to interrupt that. I looked up. You didn't interrupt anything. You're the first thing that's ever felt like it mattered. Her hand curled around her mug, knuckles white. You're kind and you mean that, she said. But one day, you'll look back and wonder what you were doing having tea with a woman who already had a marriage and a mortgage before you even turned 25. I let that sit. It hurt, because part of me knew she was right. But not all of me. Maybe, I said. But right now I'm here. And I'm not confused. She looked at me, really looked. And I felt it again. That pause behind her eyes. The one that wasn't fear. It was self-preservation. I'm not asking for forever, I added. I'm just asking for this. For you to stop pretending it didn't matter to you too. The silence after that wasn't cold. It was weight. Then she reached out, slowly, and placed her hand over mine. Just that. Warm. Steady. Okay, she said almost inaudibly. Then again firmer. Okay, it didn't happen all at once. She didn't leap into my arms. I didn't move in. No breathless kisses at crosswalks. Just time. Shared, quietly. We started walking together on Wednesdays. We made dinner together sometimes. Usually pasta. She hated chopping onions. I liked it. Said I looked too serious doing it. She'd throw dish towels at me from across the kitchen. We learned how to be quiet without drifting. How to sit on opposite ends of a room and still feel close. It was never about declarations. It was about presence. Once we passed that same bookstore bench. The one where everything nearly cracked. She slowed, glanced at it. You still think I'm going to grow out of this? I asked her, half a smile on my face. She gave me a look. Soft. Knowing. No, she said. I think you've already grown into it. I saw her cry once. Not over us. Not in some cinematic way. Just a Tuesday night. An old song came on the radio while she was folding laundry. She sat down on the edge of the bed and wiped at her face with the sleeve of her shirt. Didn't explain. I didn't ask. I just sat beside her. Quiet. Still. She reached for my hand. Held it like she didn't need saving. Just someone to sit in it with her. People still stared sometimes. Whispered. Especially when we were out together. I stopped noticing after a while. Or maybe I just stopped caring. She noticed, though. And one day, while waiting for our order at a food truck, she leaned closer and said, "Let them wonder. I'm not hiding anymore." I looked at her and smiled. Not the boyish, hopeful smile I had when we met, but something quieter. Worn in. The kind that knows what it has. She still made tea. I still made coffee. Some mornings, she'd sip mine just to grimace. I'd sip hers just to remember. I don't know when I stopped counting the years between us. It was like one day they just didn't matter. Not in a defiant way. In a real way. Like breath. Like blink. The last time I forgot something at the cafe, my phone this time. She handed it back to me without a word. But later, when I opened my notes app, there was one line typed in under my grocery list. You still make me forget how old I am. I didn't smile big. Just small. Just enough. Like we both knew what it meant. End of story. Sparkles, did the story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next? Ask ChatGPT why.